And yeah, it's time to move on to the next topic. So the next will be our test strategy for chatbot. So this will be presented by Monika Sharma. So to tell about Monika, so she's a quality analyst in Thoughtworks for 3+ years. She has an expertise knowledge in creating the testing strategies for multiple projects. And she also has a good handful of experience in both functional and non-functional testing. So yeah, over to you, Monika.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll start sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible and my voice is audible.
Yeah, Monika.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about test strategy for chatbot. Now, before jumping to how we are going to build the test strategy and what all different types of testing we are going to consider, first we have to understand that what are chatbot, so that everyone is on the same page. Just a second. Yeah. So chatbot are the application to create an online conversation, that is via text or text to speech. So in the real life, like the apps, the different kind of apps we use, have you ever interacted with any chatbot before? You can, so in order to make this session interactive, I am going to ask few questions, and you can answer those questions in the Zoom chat. Okay. So yeah, I would like to know like which all applications you have used in which you have interacted with the chatbots before. For example, in this example, I have interacted with Swiggy, and there I am asking the most common question, right? Where is my order? Or like no delivery executive has been assigned to my order, something like that. And then in return the chatbot replies to me that okay, this is at this place, what is the ETA, how much time will it take, something like that. Okay. So it is it is not a manual process, it is like automated process from chatbot. So now let's say we are going to build a chatbot. Now before testing, in the development step, what all are the best practices which we can consider? Different categories. So first one is the personality. Personality includes, does chatbot have a clear voice or tone that fits in with the user? Basically, this is via text to speech, specifically for text to speech kind of chatbot. Next is onboarding. Are the users understanding what chatbot is about? Understanding, which is requests, small talks, idioms, emojis. Is chatbot able to understand those emojis? Answering, are the answers which chatbot is giving are relevant to the users? It should not be like out of the blue. Next one is the navigation. Do you feel lost while speaking to the chatbot? Another one is error management. How good is chatbot dealing with all the errors going to happen? And the last one is the intelligence. Like, is chatbot able to remember few things or not? Now we have seen the UI, just the UI, but under the hood, what is going on? Like, what all applications are there? What all different components are there? What is its architecture? Okay. So for the ease of understanding, I have taken an example of very simplified chatbot. Okay. So this chatbot can be a mobile application or a web app. Let's say when a user messages in chatbot, it sends a request to the dialog flow. And then after that, basically with the correct parameters, then dialog flow receives the request and send it to the GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Then GCP receives the post request from the dialog flow, and it basically reverts with the parameter to return more customized answer. After that, dialog flow basically then contacts the webhook if the intents uses some fulfillment or some of the intents to respond to the request, and then responds back. It handles a natural language processing kind of thing to basically choose the correct response, and finally it responds back to the chatbot again. Okay. So this is very basic and the simplified example I have chosen. And Next one is setting up quality gates. So for now, we have seen what are chatbot, what are the basically the best practices which we can include while the development of chatbots. Now we are going to see how we are going to set up, or which all things to consider basically to set up the quality gates. Okay. First one is to identify the goals of testing. Okay. It basically means that we are going to validate input and output as per the previous flow diagram which I have shown, the request and response. We are going to validate it. Validate context, validating intents, fallback intents, validate the bot response on the UI, and then validate the usability. So there, these context, validating intents, and fallback intents, these three terminologies are very specific to the chatbot. So first of all, the context, it basically means a unique identifier which is given to a conversation with the user, as well as a counter that is incremented with each turn. So if we don't preserve a context, each round of conversation or input, it will appear as a start of conversation. It won't hold on. Okay. Next one is intent. It basically refer to the goal the customer has in mind while typing in. Fallback intents, it basically if chatbot doesn't able to understand then what is the default response chatbot is giving. Okay. So for now you have understood what goals of testing to consider. Okay. And what is its flow diagram. I would like to know from you that what are the different types of testing we can consider. Okay. Just mention in the Zoom chat. Yeah, it will be a quick one, and then I'll move to the next one. We have identified the goal of testing. Next one is mapping the goals with the testing level or the different testing types. So for example, here, the first one, validate input, output, and validating context. We can validate it with the help of API test. And then validating the bot response on the UI and validating the usability as well can be done with the UI test, whether whether it's on web app or whether it's on mobile app. We can validate with the our specific UI test. And then at the end, we can put it in our CI/CD to run these tests as and when required. Next step is consider the non-function cross functional requirements also. Okay, so usually we get so involved that okay, our UI tests are running, API tests are running, everything is done. It's not done yet. The next cross-functional requirements to consider is usability testing, performance testing, and security testing. So let's say I have typed where is my order. Okay, so I can also type something like order where, or in some other language like usually in Hindi or in any of the language, how my chatbot is responding, whether it's supported or not. Okay. Next is performance test. How many users are using or asking their questions in the chatbot at that very point of time. Okay. That is also part of performance test. Then the security test, whether our conversation is secured or whether that whole chatbot ecosystem is secured or not. So it will be tested via security testing or vulnerability testing. Okay. Next is picture the overall strategy. It basically means that you have step one, which is setting the objectives of testing. Then step two, defining what to test at every level. Third step is cross functional. And after that, you have to see how you are going to, picturize it in a high level overview. And then after picturizing all these steps, like as an overall strategy, we should not forget that the strategy which we have created, like in a beginning or while the inception time or at the very early stage, it's not it. I mean, after that it should evolve as and when, like let's say a specific component get involved. For example, right now I have talked about very simplified flow of chatbot. But let's say a chatbot has AI/ML, and it's built on the top of that. It has some models to decide the response. Then ideally the strategy is going to evolve over the period of time, because in at the inception period you'll get a gist of idea like which all components will be there in the flow, in the whole ecosystem, let's say of the kind of architecture which we are going to build in. Okay, but so yeah, so slowly we have to evolve it over a period of time. And the last step is don't assume while preparing the test strategy. Always raise question, as in that what about the local app, the app which is on mobile phone, or what will be the response if bot is down, what how the garbage text can be handled, something like that. Okay, now we have till now we have discussed about, okay, what our test strategy looks like, but what about the tech stack? As in, we have seen UI test can be added, API test can be added, performance test, usability test. There are a lot of tests we have seen, but what about the tech stack? So let's say we have a base development code written in TypeScript. Okay, so our first instinct says that let's not go for something which is very trending. Let's say we can write our test in API test, sorry, we can write our API test in rest assured, and let's say UI test in Selenium for basically web app testing, because Swiggy app or Swiggy, we can use Swiggy web in the website also, right, in the web app also. So, and plus for mobile, in order to test those the chatbot related thing in mobile via APM. Okay, so if we go in a traditional way, we can use whole this slot of tech stack. So what is the advantage of this is that let's say if any new QA gets onboard into a project, okay, and then it will be easier for him to understand that, okay, how it is written, which all, for example, Selenium. I hope mostly every one of us knows about it, like how to use it, how to write test, basically. Let's say if our development code is in TypeScript and we go ahead and decide the TypeScript, or let TypeScript as a base language for writing our API test also, let's say super test, or let's say if not TypeScript, then something very familiar JavaScript, then we can write our test in Test Cafe also. There are different options, but depends on the requirement also. For example, if I go ahead with the super test and the Test Cafe, if I hand in, maybe I have built a framework, then later on I can add this as a acceptance criteria, that let's say if developers have created these features, then at the end they should add a test, they should add some test in the API test suite as well as in the UI test suite. Okay, so it will be easier for them to write the test in JavaScript, then let's say writing a test in Java for rest assured, then again Selenium. So we have to consider these kind of parameters also in mind while preparing for our tech stack, like what can be our base languages of test can be, or what kind of libraries we are going to use for API testing, UI testing, let's say performance testing as well. So we have to run a specific POC as per what a client ecosystem have and what all they supports within, because sometimes when we do a POC we think that okay, this will work in our local, this is working in our local, but when we put all these tests in their pipeline, the test started failing because some of the features of their pipeline doesn't support, okay, those set of libraries. So we have to consider our POC as completed only when CI CD is our test is running in CI CD properly. Okay, so yeah, I mean that is a quick round of session, and yeah, that's it for now. and we can open the forum for Q&A. Okay, so in order to, as a quick recap, I would like to reiterate everything what we have discussed in the last 15 minutes. First one is what chatbot is, how it looks like, and next is what are the different testing levels we can consider by thinking about overall 360 degrees of testing from the QA perspective. And we have just talked a brief about like what are the steps involved. For example, step 1, finding the goals of testing, and then map the goals with the testing type, consider the cross functional requirements as well, then noting down your questions as well. Okay, so considering those, and after that, what can be the tech stack, and just not sticking to the traditional ones. And yeah, so this is a holistic picture of what we have discussed till now. Yeah, Shweta.
Yeah, Monica. So I have one question, like how are we supposed to check if the model, like whether the model is improving after some iterations or not? Like, would that be a part of like test strategy also?
Can you give an example?
Like suppose we build a model, okay, the chatbot is there, and we are like in the first iteration of like testing whether this is working fine or not. So after some rounds of testing, so is there a way to get to know like the performance has also increased? Like can we say as a QA, like we have tested the chatbot and it is up to this benchmark, like like
Okay.
generally, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry to interrupt. Okay, so this, I mean, it's not specific to the chatbot, it is specific to any application which we are testing. Okay, first of all, always store the report, as in that, for example, we are running the performance test in the first week. We ran the test, we have seen the throughput, we have seen everything, we have noted down like how much time it is taking, let's say. So we have a report for one specific milestone. You will not get to know that how it is performing, that in that very point of time. It just, you can always get a rough idea that okay, in this service it is taking a lot of time, or in this service it's pretty fast, those kind of thing. Okay, but in the second run, when you compare with the previous run, after let's say doing some optimization in the code, that time you'll be able to understand that okay, the performance has improved or not, or whether it has degraded. Okay, sometimes it depends on the development code which we have written, but sometimes it is also dependent on the third party application as well, in case if that client ecosystem have.
Okay, okay. So that covers like the performance past, like how fast it is, how quickly it gives the response to the user. But what about the accuracy part? Like whether the response that the user is receiving, on the other hand, whether
Mhm.
that response is proper or not.
Yeah. So in that case, we have two objectives. Yeah, we have two objectives for that. First one is validating the request and response. In that, in order to test that, we usually consider the API test as the primary means of finding like what is the accurate response chatbot is giving. Okay, so in the first level of testing, we give a specific set of input. Okay, and then we expect certain set of output. Okay, but in usability, we give a more larger or more wider set of inputs from a different perspectives, from different let's say the kind, from different categories of customer perspective. Okay, and that these two kind of testing depicts the accuracy of chatbot's response.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Does this answer your question?
Yeah, Monica, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Tushar.
Yeah. Monica, one question like, how does this, testing a specific chatbot, how it is like, different from testing maybe a conventional product, like, let's say, for example, like you have a Amazon and, you want to check where is your order, you want to track the packages or something. Having
Mm-hmm.
that kind of module or product into your mind and comparing that with the chatbot. So, what kind of difference we can kind of observe, like when we are testing both products as well as the chatbots, what difference do you find in that?
Yeah. In order to answer your question, it actually depends on the use case which client have. Okay. So sometimes when they come up with the use case where they have another ecosystem, this chatbot is just a subset. Okay, in that case we tend to cover the whole ecosystem, like by adding the UI test or API test, all these will remain the same. Okay, but let's say if they have a use case where only chatbot is involved. Okay, so that time we consider from a testing from the from the testing goal of just testing the chatbot. So it actually depends on the client's use case, which I feel. But
Oh,
in order to answer your question, chatbot testing is just a subset of overall ecosystem testing.
yeah, yeah, I mean that's what my understanding is, like that chatbot independently we cannot test it until and unless the whole ecosystem or the whole kind of application or the product is uh, tested. Because
Yes.
if we say, like where is my order, if you just ask chatbot like where is your order, that again depends on the backend services which are also triggering when you are working on the product also.
Yeah. And apart from that, so yeah, again, we are thinking from a very overall picture. Okay, but let's say there is one specific assignment on which I have worked within ThoughtWorks is where it just related to chatbot. So in that case, nothing, for example, a client has a UI or a website or something like that. That was not under our control. That was not under, any of the our parent companies or the companies in which we are working in. It's not in our control. It's with the third party. In that case, I think, yeah, it will fit in. But when it comes to overall picture, it's just a subset of those ecosystem testing superset.
Okay. Monica, one last question. Sorry to taking your time. Just last question. When do you think, like this implementation of a chatbot service lies in the overall life cycle of the product? So when we say, like, do you think that this chatbot implementation will be more useful when the whole product is stable enough, or we can think about having a kind of chatbot implementation right from the designing of the product aspect?
Okay, so I have worked with both kind of models where we have implemented from beginning and where we have implemented after us, maybe at the very end or maybe something in between. Okay,
Mhm.
so the very good feedback we have received when we have started implementing in a beginning, like in maybe max to max first or the second iteration. Okay, but when we have delayed it little late, then we got burden, and then we were in a hurry of just putting the test. Okay, rather than thinking that how the optimization would look like, and we didn't got basically time to look into the development code as well. So when you do it in the beginning, you have all the control over the development code as well. You have all the time to see like how the dev code is written, and then you can suggest that okay, this is how it should be. Okay, so it's all about control. And then, and if you delay it, the more you delay, it will be in a rush, and then there are chances that you'll be having a little time to work on just a priority thing, and you will tend to miss out a certain, which are important also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
due to interest of time, we'll take one last question from Sridhar. Yeah, go ahead, Sridhar. Yeah, post that if you have any questions, please post your questions in the chat. Your questions will be answered via chat. Yeah, go ahead, Sridhar. Sridhar?
You can unmute yourself.
I'm audible right now?
Yes, you are audible.
Hello?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Sorry
Yeah.
for that. Sorry for that, yeah. So how do we check that stability of the chatbot? For example, whenever a new development is deployed in web application, or maybe some updates coming in mobile application. So after that update, or maybe an upgrade of the application, so how do we check the stability? Because I've encountered an issue in my current organization with the chatbot. So sometimes I've asked the question about they opened a ticket, raised a ticket. So it took around 5 minutes, and then it shows no answers for that. So that's what are my questions, like how do we check the stability of the chatbot after an update?
Okay, so there are okay, so the things which I've talked about till now are just a holistic things. Okay, then at the ground level, there is something called as regression test. When it's not about just adding the test, then so let's say we have added our API test. So API test at the integration level are considered as the fastest one to run, and they give a very fast feedback and immediate feedback basically. So we can add those tests as an integration level test, and then we can add those tests as a part of regression test suite. So whenever, let's say, any update is there, we can run our regression test suite and get the feedback, like which all features are running, and something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, usually when we talk about test strategy, we talk about, different types of testing. But yes, I think this is the good point to add at the ground level, which we should also think about. Like, it's not just about adding the test or running the test. It's about, like, in case if there is a change, we are going to add it as a part of regression test suite. And this is how we are, our core testing concept will fit into this kind of picture. Yeah, so I think that there are not many questions, and yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for joining this call. It's kind of late already, but yes, thank you so much. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Monika. So yeah, if you have any further questions, please post your questions in the chat, and your questions will be answered surely. Yeah, and so thank you, Monika, for sharing hints and various steps to prepare test strategy for the chatbot. It will be really helpful if we want to develop test strategy for any of the chatbots. So once again, thanks for that. And we have some short quiz for this topic as well. So yeah, participants, please feel free to take that questions. Yeah, we have 30 seconds. Yeah, I think all is enabled now. You are able to see the questions. Yeah, we have 15 more minutes. Sorry, 15 more seconds. Yeah, 5 more seconds. Yes, we are done. We can end the poll now. Yeah. Thanks everyone for participating for this poll.